Hello Internets, this is BoneCarlos coming to you live from Shakura's Plateau to bring you another StarCraft 2 commentary. Today we're going to have a ZVZ, as noticeable by the big old blobs that leave on the minimap, and spawning as the red Zerg in the top right hand corner we have Anxair? I'm just going to go ahead and call him Air from here on out, and in the bottom left spawning as a blue Zerg we're going to have a Hellzerg. Man, that must have been one hell of a trip, huh Hellzerg? Ha! Well, all awesome jokes aside, let's go ahead and get started with this cast. We see both deciding to scout cross-map, well not cross-map, to their respective sides with their overlords. It's going to take a while for them to make that little trek all the way across, but you know what, if you send one overlord that way, one drone up here, it actually provides nice little scouting opportunities for the Zerg race. We do see everything, nothing crazy out of the ordinary. I mean, we just see overlords popping out, we see drones popping out, so nothing too crazy. We're not going to see any kind of 6-pool or 9-pool action. We see a little dang coming from Hellzerg. I'm not sure why. Maybe he forgot something, but so far everything looks up to par. We have APM is fairly average on both players. We have a 43 to 39. In production, we still see drones, and in the income tab, we see about 480, 460, same difference. I mean, they have 13, 14 harvesters going up, so everything is pretty nominal here. The thing is with Zerg versus Zerg, it does always, a lot of the times it does come down to Zergling and Baneling, and as you can see, Hellzerg is planting down that extractor at the same time, a little bit after that spawning pool actually, so we're going to see some interesting speedling play, while Air decides to grab a very early hatchery actually at 2 minutes and about, looks like about 20 seconds. So he's bypassing any kind of spawning pool, so there goes the extractor. I assume the spawning pool is going to go down as soon as he racks up those 200 minerals. Over here in Camp Hell, we see him just mining those Vespin gas, and I'm assuming as soon as he gets 100 he's going to go ahead and stop that just to get that the speedling boost up and running. We see a hatchery still going down for Air. Nothing is changing in that situation. And there you go. Actually, in my previous cast, I stated that if you plop them down at the same time, you have enough gas for enough gas for speed as soon as that spawning pool pops. But it turns out you have to actually plop it down a couple of seconds beforehand. As for the scouting, we see we actually see an interesting little scouting path by Air. He kind of went, you know what? Nah, I think they're gonna go. I think they're over here, and he's guessing right because that's where we're going. That's where the enemy is. We see Hellzerg finally taking down his first natural, and he has one little ling just popping out, and one little ling over here just hanging out. Just keep holding down the fort here. Over in Camp Air, we see his expansion finally goes down, and his spawning pool is finished, and we have let's see what do we got here. We got about 6 Zerglings and 8 Zerglings, so he uses all those larvae to produce those lings. It's going to be interesting to see what happens after this. I mean, all Hellzerg has is 4 lings, and then those 6 just popped, and the 2 more are going to pop, so it's going to be 8 versus 4 lings. It's going to be very interesting to see. We see a Balance going down, and we see Hellzerg knowing exactly what's going on in Air's base. Over here, we see a Queen chasing off Air's scouting overlord, but I'm interested to see what he's going to do with all these lings. I mean, obviously it's going to morph him into Banelings with this Baneling that's coming in, and we're just going to go down to Baneling micro and who could cause those Banelings to burst while doing minimal amount of damage to themselves. And he manages to take off that overlord, and he is actually supply blocked. So that was a nice little chase by the Queen. I mean, yeah, it's a very slow chase. Ever seen a chase with some sort of golf carts? Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. Hellzerg does have his Baneling nest already done, and he's morphing 2 in. Over in Air's base, we see his Baneling nest just popping. I'm assume a couple of Banelings are gonna. Yep, Banelings are getting popped over, are getting created over here. So. Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see. I always love seeing Zerg versus Zerg, especially early game, because there's just so much randomness. I know there's a nice little picture that came up on the internets where it showed mirror matchups, and the Zerg versus Zerg was pretty much 2 dudes just having a knife fight. Very appropriate, I feel, especially with these little Banelings in use. In the income, everything's pretty much the same. We see the same amount of harvesters on both sides. We see 2 Banelings of 4 Hellzerg, 4 for Air, and here comes a nice little push. We see 2 Banelings coming in. Oh, wow, 1 Baneling takes down about 3. We see if he wants to bring down any couple more, give chase. Nope, there's only 3 left in his base, and 2 more just trying to rush forward, back and forth. Look like tiny little roaches, just trying to do as much maximum amount of damage as possible. 1 drone goes down. It looks like that's about it. He managed to get the larva down in the middle of a fight. He says, you know what, you want to attack these Zergs? Nah, I'm going to go ahead and inject some larva. So let's go ahead and take a unit's loss. We see it does favor actually Hellzerg, especially with that little Baneling bust that he was able to do on those 4 Zerglings. So it does favor Hellzerg with only 3 unit slots and 150 minerals. Or resources, actually, whereas Air just lost a bunch of Zerglings in that initial push. So it's very interesting to see what his response is going to be. Actually going to be a lair by Hellzerg. He knows he pretty much feels a little bit safe, especially with the amount of damage that he did. So he's going to go ahead and tech up. I mean, both players are deciding to get lair, but in this situation, I feel that Air is in a little bit of a bad spot compared to Hellzerg. We see Hellzerg popping down a 3rd extractor. It's kind of interesting because there you go. He had an extra extractor over here not mining. I'm not sure how long it wasn't mining for a while, but there's only 2 harvesters on there. See if he's going to be able to catch that in a second. We see an evolution chamber going down. No roach warren yet for either players, so it's still interesting to see what's going to go down. More than likely, Mutalisks are going to be in the field of play since both are teching up to lair. So that's pretty much how a Zerg versus Zerg matchup happens and how it goes usually. You go Ling Baneling. And if it goes beyond that, you just go ahead and go straight to Mutalisk. Yeah, you know, it is fairly predictable, and as you can see, he's throwing down a Spore Crawler in case he has any kind of a Mutalisk decide to show up unexpectedly, but he does throw down a Roach Warren and a Hydralisk, and so he's instead of going for the Mutalisk production with the Spire Tower, he's actually going a Hydralisk Roach. So it's very interesting to see what he's going to do. Roaches are very good against Banelings. I mean, it takes a couple to bring down a single Roach, so it's interesting to see what Hellzerg can pull off while he is pulling up these the Hydralisk to deal with the Spire, since he's assuming that the Spire is going to go down from his opponent. So he's gearing up and preparing for that, throwing down a Spore Crawler. He has a Hydralisk then already up and running. See if he decides to produce any kind of Hydralisk then. He already has Missile Attack level 1. Researching, so as soon as he has a decent enough force of Hydralisks, he will have that upgraded weapons. We see an Overseer just hanging out, perusing, see if he throws down a little Vomitage on the lair. Nope, decides to just head on home. Doesn't have enough energy for the Contaminate, but contaminating your opponent's Zerg hatchery and lairs are very good, since they can't produce any kind of eggs in that or larvae in that situation. And Hellzerg does the same thing, throwing an Overseer down. So it's a mirror matchup to the mirror matchup to the mirror matchup. The only difference is Hellzerg is going ground. He does spot this secret little expansion, so it's going to be very interesting to see if he decides to do anything about it. And it looks like he is. He's going to go ahead and shimmy over these Zerglings over here to try to pick this off before any kind of reinforcements come in from Air. He's sending 3 Banelings, but I don't think 3 Banelings is going to do it. I don't think it's going to be enough. He might be able to pick off half, but he's still going to leave plenty ore. And there it is. There's the response. He brings down more Zerglings, and is he going to bring it down? He does bring it down. Not even a cancel on that. He loses all those minerals, so that's very huge for Air. But he does, oh wow, he does have a lot of Mutalisks already on the field of play. He has 11 down. 4 Hydralisks isn't going to be enough to be able to bring them all down. And Air actually does, he has spotted his Hellzerg's expansion, so he's going to go straight forward as well. I mean, he, you know, eye for an eye, take down the 3rd on both players. Hellzerg is making a little creep highway. So Hellzerg's expansion actually does go down, and here come the Mutalisk. Is it going to be enough? R9 Hydralisk enough to hold it down? And he does have a couple of Queens here. Not enough to transmute. He has 1 for a transmute, but look at, I mean, there's just DPS from Air is just too high, especially with that little Glaive Worm attack. And he has, oh, a ton more Hydralisks coming in, and Air actually could just sack all of these. He could just attack. Oh, the Banelings go in and destroy those Zerglings. We see Roaches coming in, taking them out, and then Air is just forced to retreat. I mean, those units came on the field of battle at exactly the right time. He had enough Roaches to deal with those Banelings, and enough reinforcement Hydralisks took care of the remaining Mutalisks in the unit loss tab. Let's see what we have here. 52 units lost for Air at about 2,900 minerals. We got 29 for Hellzerg at only about 2350, and we have an infestation pick going on, so interesting choice. I'm not sure if he wants to take up into high tech, or he's actually going to produce any kind of infestors for those Mutalisks, throwing down a Contaminate, I believe is what it's called. Nope, Fungal Growths. Just lock them down into place so those Hydralisks could bring them down that much easier. And we actually see a nice advantage for Hell right now. I mean, Harvesters are 59 to 42. Having that extra hatchery definitely does help. I mean, you see the you know, the proof is in the pudding right there. Income is going up. It's just skyrocketing, and we see Air's hatchery just going down, while Hellzerg's has been in production for quite a while. I mean, he has a dozen or so drones here, and he's actually protecting this base, you know, fairly heavily. I mean, a single rush forward. I mean, there's 2 Hydralisks here, but a couple of spores. But with this creep highway, actually, he would be able to just swing by and counter him and just attack him from behind. So it's a very interesting spot, but very, very safe. I mean, I would love for him to swing these Mutalisks that he have. I would like for Air to swing by these Mutalisks to come over here and just attack, take down these BoneCarlos and this Queen. I mean, he has 4 in production right now, and he has 16. So that is plenty of Mutalisks to bring down, do a ton of damage here. I mean, he'll definitely be able to pick off this Crawler and Queen. He'll be able to do enough damage to these drones to make it worthwhile in the attack, but instead he's just swinging up here, going to go ahead and attack the newest expansion that Hellzerg has put down. I mean, we see a couple of extractors going down, and he's actually decided to move out. It looks like Air actually saw this. He's pulling back with those Mutalisks, and Hellzerg has decided to push forward and then push back. Actually, push forward, push back. It's not a bad move at all. I mean, if you push forward and your opponent does see this, it forces his attack to just be pushed back as well. So it's an interesting little ploy, especially if you know where your enemy units are coming from and you expect an attack. Just push forward, especially if he could see it himself, as he did with these watchtowers. It's going to force that attack to pull back. Buying you some time. I mean, we see in production we see Burrow going down and another Mutalisk going down for Air and Carapace level 1, which is going to be great for against those Mutalisks. I mean, all your ground units are going to have extra armor. It's going to be great for those Mutalisks, especially with that Gladeborn bouncing back and forth in between your entire army. We see everybody's just kind of pinned back, not wanting to commit completely, because one wrong move in a Zerg fight and you'll lose your entire army, and generally losing your entire army, not such a good idea. We actually see Air spreading out his forces nicely. I mean, but right now all he has is Mutaling with a handful of Banelings right over here, while in Hellzerg he has Roaches and he has Hydralisks. I mean, those Roaches just to tank all that damage from the Banelings, and then Hydralisks will be able to pick apart these Zerglings. And here comes a nice little push, nice little attack coming. This force has nothing. This force is not going to be able to do anything. Here comes the swing forward by those oh, and we see Infestors going down. We're going to see some Fungals, more than likely going to see some Fungals on these Mutalisks, and there it is. There's the Fungal. He's going to go ahead and pin him down. The Hydralisks are going to mop up, clean up, take everything out of commission, and we actually see, and it looks like, oh, there's only that handful of Hydralisks left, and oh, these Roaches without any anti-air are just going to string forward, going to try to take down these expansions, but really, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and they are highly damaged, and Air just decides to leave the game. I mean, transfuse back and forth among these 2 queens. They will be able to survive long enough for these Roaches to bring down this hatchery. I mean, I don't think Air had any more units on the field of play. He had a handful of Mutalisks, but 3 of them were tied up here. 4 of them, actually, they were all right here. So very interesting play. As you can see, it's very back and forth, up until just a positioning takes care of the game for you. So that's it for this game. I hope you guys enjoyed. If not, leave a comment down below on what I could do to make these more enjoyable for you. Honestly, I would love to hear you guys' feedback. This is just obviously for you guys, and if you guys give me feedback on what I could do to make these better, it would be fantastic, on something I could work on. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here because I'm hungry.